Today on Legally Us, Tiffany Haddish breaks her silence on sexual abuse allegations. Plus, can Britney Spears force her children to spend time with her? And Takashi 6ix9ine's girlfriend is not allowed to contact him following her domestic violence arrest. We got that plus so much more on today's Legally Us. Hey everyone, welcome to Legally Us, a brand new show here at Us Weekly where we break down all the latest legal drama with your favorite stars. And joining me each and every week, of course, is Nima Rahmani, a former federal prosecutor and president of West Coast Trial Lawyers. Hi, Nima, how are you?
Hi, Christina. How's it going?
Good. We have a lot of big stories to get to, so let's get right into it. This was a bombshell story from Tiffany Haddish because she addressed the sexual abuse allegations made against her and fellow comedian Aries Spears. So she wrote on Instagram saying, I know people have a bunch of questions. I get it. I'm right there with you. Unfortunately, because there is an ongoing legal case, there's very little that I can say right now, but clearly why this sketch was intended to be comedic, it wasn't funny at all. And I deeply regret having agreed to act in it. I really look forward to being able to share a lot more about the situation as soon as I can. Now, this comes after a now 22-year-old woman and her 14-year-old brother filed a lawsuit on August 30th against the pair, alleging they groomed and sexually abused them during their childhood. The comedians are both accused of intentional infliction of emotional distress, gross negligence, sexual battery, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of a minor. Now, her lawyer came out saying that this was absolutely bogus. Is it?
Well, I know her lawyer, Andrew Brettler, and I've had cases with him, so I'm not surprised that he said that, but it may well be bogus. It's really going to depend on what the video shows. Was it really sexual abuse? Was it something else? I haven't seen the video, so I gotta withhold judgment until I get a chance to do so.
Yeah, no, the video was posted online back in 2018. It was taken down, but it was a call through a pedophile's eyes. So, and then it was supposedly posted on Funny or Die. They said that they had no affiliation with it whatsoever. But how did that video even see the light of day?
I'm surprised it was on, and not only online, it was online for years. So it's a question of, did anyone report it? Did anyone complain? I mean, ultimately, websites, social media companies, they're generally not civilly liable for the content on their sites. They have immunity under federal law. But the question is, if this was really sexual abuse and so problematic, why was it online for so long?
Right. Why did it take so long for this lawsuit to come forward then, too?
Well, here in my hometown of Los Angeles, where this was filed, we're dealing with California law. And they recently opened up the statute of limitations for civil lawsuits like this. So specifically, if someone was sexually abused as a child, they're allowed to file, whereas previously their claims may have been barred by the statute of limitations. So that's why we're seeing a lot of lawsuits like this for victims of childhood sexual abuse. They're now coming forward and filing suit.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think I read that they were trying to file this suit for quite some time and they couldn't. So that makes sense. So what would happen if this goes to court? Do you foresee this settling outside of court?
I think it will. And Haddish's lawyer, Brettler, he recently represented Prince Edward in the Epstein case. Prince Andrew in the Epstein case. And he defends a lot of people accused of sexual abuse, and most of those cases settle. I fully expect this case to settle as well. Haddish and Spears have too much to lose to take this case to trial.
Yeah. Do you think that this would probably be a big settlement then?
Potentially. It really depends on that video. Was it satire? Was it comedy? Or was it actual sexual abuse? And if it was, and Haddish and Spears filmed it and broadcast it to the entire world, that case is going to be worth a lot of money.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, moving on to Britney Spears. She fired back at her son, Jaden Federline's comments about their relationship after he defended Jamie Spears' decision to place her under a conservatorship. So this all happened in a 60 Minutes Australia interview. But after that aired, Britney took to Instagram and said, so Jaden, as you undermine my behavior, just like my whole family always has with, I hope she gets better. I will pray for her. Pray for what? Do you guys want me to get better so I can continue to give your dad $40K a month? Or is the reason behind you guys deciding to behave fools is because it's actually over in 2 years and you don't get anything? Now, Jaden's older brother, Sean Preston, will turn 17 later this month. She continued claiming that her son's don't really want to spend time with her anymore. She said, you said, Mama, oh, it'll change. The one time I looked you straight in the eyes and said, I want to see you more. And you called your dad and I never saw you again. She says that they really haven't seen her in months, that when they went there, that they would leave 2 hours earlier. They would nap the whole time. They wouldn't really pay attention to her. So since they are minors, can Britney force her sons to spend more time with her? Because I think she has the kids 30% of the time. Kevin has them 70% of the time, but can she force them?
Absolutely. I mean, they're minors. So this is a family law case. Now that Britney Spears is no longer under conservatorship, she can go to the family law court and ask the judge for 50-50 custody, or even more than that. She has her full set of rights now that she's no longer under conservatorship.
Surprised that she hasn't done that then?
You know, these things aren't surprising because ultimately, first, Britney Spears had to get her own life in order, right? Be able to make decisions for herself and for her finances. She was under complete and total control of her father when she was under conservatorship. Now that she no longer is, her lawyers are probably going to try to get her life in order, including getting more custody of her kids.
Yeah. Why do you think Kevin Federline is speaking out now? Hasn't over the past 13 years? Do you think did he lose something when the conservatorship was up?
He did. He lost a Britney Spears that had really little to no legal rights, right? So when you're under conservatorship, you can't make decisions for yourself. Someone else, a court-appointed person, will make decisions for you. So Kevin Federline was probably protected from Britney Spears trying to gain more custody. Now that conservatorship is over, he's going to have to deal with her both in the courtroom and what she's saying in the press. She's saying that, you know, she's paying him $40,000 a month. So now he's going to have to respond to some of these media accusations. And
is that probably why he released that video of her recently, saying that she was a bad mother and things like that? And, basically saying that she wasn't a fit mother. Is he trying to paint her in a bad picture so she doesn't get that 50-50 custody?
I think so. Federline's not only going to fight in court, but in the court of public opinion. And we've seen a much more aggressive Britney Spears. She knows her rights. She has the right lawyers. So I fully expect her to go after Federline, whether it's for child support in terms of the dollar amount, alimony, or actual the custody time that she's going to have. There's no reason now that she's no longer in conservatorship, it shouldn't be 50-50.
Do you think that her lawyers are telling her not to post this stuff on social media, though?
I'm sure she's got a legal team and a PR team. This doesn't help your case. You want to litigate this in the courtroom. And this may make her feel better to post things on social media and Instagram, but ultimately, a judge isn't going to like all this back and forth. Mm-hmm. What really matters is the well-being of the kids, and being talked about on social media is not good for anyone.
Right. And it was interesting that her son said that he agreed with the conservatorship, that it was the right thing for them to do at the time. I mean, do you think that when this conservatorship started out, it was to help Britney? And I mean, what did you think of it when it ended?
Well, I don't think it was legally appropriate. A conservatorship, especially here in California, is meant for someone that cannot make decisions for themselves. They're in a coma, they're incapacitated, they're severely special needs. Threatening to kill yourself is not enough. It is the most complete form of control, and it's really limited to the most extreme cases. So for Britney Spears to be under conservatorship and be under conservatorship for 13 years was not legally appropriate, in my opinion.
Definitely not. Free Britney. All right, moving on to Takashi 6ix9ine's girlfriend, because she is legally barred from contacting him following her domestic violence arrest. But he told TMZ that he doesn't think that it is necessary. Now, she is prohibited from having any communication with him, including phone calls, texts, letters, social media. She has to stay 500 feet away from him. Now, Jade, his girlfriend, is living in his Florida home with their child, and he says he'll move back when the case is resolved. So if both parties want to be in contact with each other, why can't they?
Well, this is a common misconception, right? Takashi is saying he doesn't want to press charges, but this isn't his decision. Crimes are against the state. So often you'll hear it's the people of the state of California or the people of the state of Florida or whatever the state may be versus Jade. The state is deciding to press charges and prosecute someone for domestic violence. It's not up to the victim. Sometimes the victims want to do so. Sometimes they don't. But ultimately, prosecutors are going to make that decision.
Got it. So when you are arrested for domestic violence, this was in a public place. So when you were arrested for domestic violence, is there automatically a restraining order then if it's against the state?
Yeah, they're routine restraining orders. Law enforcement can give them for a few days, and then there's a temporary restraining order, which may last weeks. Then you have a permanent restraining order. And at that hearing, it's essentially a mini trial. The parties testify, and the judge may grant a restraining order that will last years. Now, if Jade complies and she, whether it's a plea or even a conviction at trial, if she complies with the terms of her sentence, she goes to her classes and so forth, she can go to the court and modify or even terminate the restraining order later. But we're way too early right now for her to say that a restraining order isn't appropriate.
Right. But now she is living in his home. If they violate this order, what will happen? Can she go to jail?
She can, but ultimately it's up to someone to report the violation. So oftentimes victims of domestic violence, even if it's a male victim, they don't report it. If there's no report and law enforcement doesn't know about it, then the question is, will any arrests be made? Probably not.
And then this is interesting because he, would he get any special protection since he ended up being an informant a few years ago? If this charge against Jade could carry more, and could this charge against Jade carry more weight because of it?
Well, Christina, the cases are entirely separate, right? You have him being an informant in a case involving gang activity. You have to set that aside. This is a domestic violence case because his girlfriend was allegedly drunk and assaulting him. So one really has nothing to do with the other. They're both very serious, but I have to think that being an informant for law enforcement in a very serious gang case is going to be treated very differently than a domestic violence case where the assailant is a woman.
Definitely. Well, Nima, thank you so much for giving us your perspective, your expertise, as always. Always a fascinating conversation. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, as always.
Thanks, Christina. See you next week.
See you next week. And everybody keep commenting, keep subscribing, and we'll see you next week. Bye. For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.